and it became impossible for players to log out, and our protagonist Shin kept fighting to beat this game. We then see Shin leaving to fight the final boss of the game, and his friends ask him to take care of himself. Afterwards, Shin fights the final boss, and he tries to take its head, but the final boss dodges and Shin only cuts off its wing, then regenerates its wing, and Shin keeps on attacking the final boss. After a long fight, he chips down almost all of its HP, and he takes out the final boss with one of his skills. He then hears an announcement telling him that the dungeon has been cleared and players can log out. Now Shin is happy that it's finally over, and he uses a scroll to check out if everyone is able to log out. He notices the names of the players disappearing from the scroll, and one by one all of the players log out of the game, and he is the only one left. He then tries to log out as well, but he notices a gate appearing behind him, and he thinks that there shouldn't be any more events in this game. Afterwards, Shin opens his eyes in a grassland, and he notices that this place looks too realistic to be a game. He tries to check the menu, and he notices that he can still pull up windows. He finds out that his stats have improved significantly, and he thinks that this must be because he defeated the final boss. He tried to log out now that he has beaten the game, but he notices that there is no option to log out. He checks if anyone else is online, but his scroll doesn't work as he is not connected to the network. He thinks that he shouldn't be able to move if he is not connected to the network, and he wonders if this is reality. He can't understand anything, and he uses an item to locate his home base. He follows the item back to his house, and on the way he notices a giant walled city which was not here before. Afterwards, he arrives at his house, and he notices some guys trying to drag away a girl from his house. The guys take her out of the barrier surrounding the house, and as soon as she gets out, a monster attacks them. All the guys flee, leaving the girl behind, and the girl thinks that she is going to be killed. But Shin saves her, and he tells the girl that he is home. The two of them then talk inside the house, and the girl introduces herself as Tiara Lucent, and she thanks Shin for saving her. She asks Shin if he knows her master, and Shin doesn't know what she is talking about. Tiara mentions that everyone knows the acting shopkeeper of the Moon Sanctum named Schnee Razor, and Shin remembers that Schnee was one of his support characters, and he is surprised that the Moon Sanctum still exists. He confirms with Tiara that they are talking about the same person, and he tells her that him and Schnee go way back. He wonders where she is right now, and Tiara mentions that she can't share this with him as they only just met, and those guys outside were also looking for her. She states that she can take a message for her, and she mentions that it will cost him 1,000 jewels. Shin states that he only has jails with him, and he shows her a jail coin. Tiara wonders if he just took it out of the item box, and she mentions that only kings and elders of a limited species can use those. She explains that gold jail coins are items for amplifying magic, and they are worth at least 10 billion Jews. Shin thinks that in the game jails were the smallest form of currency, and Tiara asks him who he is. Shin mentions that he is just a high human, and Tiara states that the high humans went extinct long ago. She explains that there were once 6 high humans in this world, but they went missing during the dusk of prosperity 500 years ago. Shin wonders what that is, and Tiara explains that the dusk of prosperity was an historical event where many people vanished, including the high human. Shin thinks that she must be talking about the mass logout event, and he realizes that this world is 500 years after the events of the game. He thanks Tiara for telling him all this, and he gives her the jail coin. Tiara is hesitant to accept it, and she asks him if he won't try to take it back. Shin states that he won't, and she is happy to hold a jail coin. Shin tells her that it should be useful to her since elves use magic, and Tiara wonders if she looks like an elf to him. Shin states that she does, and Tiara can't believe that as she even had her master cast an illusion spell on her. Shin wonders why she would do that, and Tiara explains that black-haired elves are a symbol of misfortune. She states that because of this, black hair monsters attacked her frequently, and she was kicked out of her village. This is when her master rescued her, and she put a barrier around this place, and she has lived inside the barrier for a century now. Shin realizes that she was attacked earlier because of her curse, and he wonders wonders if there is a way to remove that curse. Tiara states that her master is looking into it, but not leaving the barrier is fine with her as long as she can live without bothering anyone. Shin then asks her if her hair has always been black, and she mentions that it used to be silver before, but she was suddenly cursed and it turned black. Shin then thinks about her symptoms, and he uses his analyze to find out that she has the cursed title called Cursed Gift. This is the reason why her hair turned black, and she gets attacked by monsters, and he tells her that there is a way to remove her curse. He then uses his Purify skill, and this removes the curse on Tiara, but only part of her hair turns silver. Tiara is happy to see her silver hair after so long, and she can't believe that her curse has been lifted. Shin states that she should try exiting the barrier, and Tiara hesitates to do this, but Shin tells her to not worry. And he mentions that he will defeat the monsters if they show up. The two of them then exit the barrier, and they take a walk for a while. They are not attacked by any monsters, and Tiara is glad that her curse has been lifted, and she mentions that she never knew that the sky was this huge. Afterwards, the two of them return to the moon sanctum, and Tiara thanks Shin for everything he has done. She wonders what he is going to do now, as her master won't be back for a while, and Shin states that he will check the nearby town. He thinks that he needs to learn more about this world, and if SHNE exists in this world, then there is a chance that his other support characters are also here. Tiara then gives him a letter of introduction, and she mentions that this will help him enter the Barrack Kingdom without having to stand in the inspection line. Shin wonders if she is sure about giving this letter to someone she just met today, and she states that it's fine as Shin lifted her curse, and he seems capable. She states that she will let him know when her master comes back, and Shin leaves the house. He goes to the kingdom of Bari. And seeing his letter of introduction, a soldier escorts him inside the kingdom, and he explains that those letters of introductions can also work in other kingdoms, and they are like identification papers that can even get him an audience with the king. The soldier takes him to the Adventurers Guild, and Shin thinks that he should start with here if he wants to gather information. He tells the receptionist that he wants to register as an adventurer, and she mentions that the applications are accepted on the first floor. Shin then meets another receptionist at the first floor, and he is surprised that she looks just like the one who was on the ground floor. He asks her about it, and she mentions that the one below was her twin sister named Celica, and she is Silica. She tells Shin to fill up the form for registration and pay the registration fees. Afterwards, we see Shin waiting at a tavern connected to the guild, and he is surprised that it takes a whole day to make a guild card. Celica then comes to him with something to eat, and he finds out that she helps out at the tavern when she is not busy. Shin eats the food, and meanwhile Celica stares at him. He asks her if she wants something, and she wonders if it's true that Shin has a letter of introduction from the Moon Sanctum. Shin states that he does, and she wonders if she can verify the authenticity of the letter. In another room, Shin mentions that she can, but he doesn't want to meet the guild master right after showing up here. Celica tells him that it's already too late for this, as the guild master is right behind him. The scene then cuts to and the guild master talking in a room, and the guild master introduces himself as Barlux Hein. He asks Shin to show him his letter of introduction, and Shin shows him the letter, and Barlux places another letter of introduction on top of it. The letters start to glow, and Shin is surprised to see this. Barlux explains that letters of introduction resonate when placed on top of each other, and he wonders who gave this letter to him. Shin states that it was Tiara, and Barlux thinks that something major must have happened if she forgot to explain to him how the letters work. He explains that a letter of introduction allows them to enter most nations without inspection. Now the scene then cuts to Shin at an inn, and while lying in bed he thinks that today was a rough day. He states that he will try to raise his rank tomorrow after getting his guild card, and he goes to sleep. The next day he goes to collect his guild card, and we see that he is wearing new clothes. Shin thinks that a bottom-ranked adventurer shouldn't dress that magnificently, and Celica then gives him his guild card. She mentions that there are 9 adventurer ranks, with SS being the highest and G being the lowest, and we see that Shin is starting as a G-ranked adventurer. Celica explains that completing jobs earns them points which allow them to rank up. and she states that he can take jobs up to 2 ranks higher than his own, and Shin tells her that he would like to take the quest to harvest HK grass, and he leaves. Celica then thinks that Shin is a strange person as Barlux recognizes his skills, but he doesn't seem imposing at all. The scene then cuts to Shin in the forest, and he can't find any hill grass. Even after looking for 3 hours, he thinks that this should be a beginner quest, and he states that it's good that all the monsters here are really weak, so he can take all the time he needs. He then notices a monster behaving strangely on his map, and he goes to take a look. He notices that the monster is a skull-faced jack, and it has a level of 359. He finds out that the monster just attacked a wagon, and his rampage must be the reason he looked odd on the map. He then remembers that some people at the guild were talking about a skull-faced jack that has been giving them problem lately, and he thinks that he should do something about this. He then attacks the monster, but the monster parries all of his attacks. He notices that the monster is wielding a light-type weapon, and he thinks that this must be a unique monster, as it's strange for an undead to wield that kind of weapon. He then attacks the monster again, but his attacks don't do it much damage. He notices that his sword is going to break after another attack, and he turns off his limiters, and he takes out the skullface with a single attack. This sends the skullface sword flying, and Shin thinks that this is a shame as he could have used that sword. He then gets a gemstone as a drop item, and he thinks that this is starting to get fun. The flying sword from earlier then lands in one of the rooms of the castle, and those who see it wonder what just happened here. The soldiers ask Princess Rion what she thinks of this great sword, and she tells the soldiers to call in an appraiser and find out the material of the sword and determine who threw it into the castle. She thinks that the person who threw the sword must be powerful,
and that powerful one goes over to the guild where everyone was troubled by the skull-face monster. Shin casually shows the core as proof that he had killed the skull-face. It was such a big deal that Shin didn't know, so Elle appears and Cecilia tells her about this. Elle thinks of first examining the gem. The skullface was pretty strong compared to other monsters, and Shin mentions that the skullface was level 359, which shocks everyone because if it's on that level, then Shin is as strong as an entire A-rank party combined. Cecilia goes over and brings Shin to another side to serve him while he waits for the results. But since the tables weren't empty, a scary guy comes to sit down with Shin. His name is Wilhelm, and everyone is scared of him because Wilhelm has a weapon that has a drain ability, so others started calling him a vampire. Shin isn't fazed even a bit. After eating with him, Shin goes over to the library to find out about the Dusk of Prosperity. At the same time, a high-level meeting is going on because of Shin. Lux tells them about the skullface, but Shin has asked to keep his identity a secret. The knight insists on learning about this Shin because a sword had just come crashing into Ryan's room, and that sword is special enough to hold the place of a royal treasure. If this person could beat the sword holder, then it is concerning. The scene shifts to Shin, where a girl is staring at him, so he offers her his food. Her name is Mill, and then Wilhelm comes to get Mill back because she's from the orphanage. Before leaving, she asks Shin to save someone from the northern woods. That was random, so first, he goes over to meet Tirara to leave a message for Shin. There, he shows her the sword. It belongs to Shin and is pretty powerful because various monster materials were used to create it. But Tirara is getting used to it because whenever Shin is around, there's always a legendary shock coming her way. Then Shin gives her a message receipt that could find the person whom he wants to send the message to. After giving her that, Shin travels to the northern woods and visits a shrine there. Inside of it is a baby fox and a barrier. Shin quickly purifies her because she had been hit by poison and a curse. Just as he completes his work, dead soldiers surround him. Shin takes care of the problem, and then the boss shows up. 2 guardians against 1 high human. 2 against 1 is unfair, but Shin fights them head-on and defeats them. The fox makes a smokescreen to help Shin, and with it, he beats the monster. Afterward, Shin checks the little one's stats and finds out it's a rare elemental beast, which were rare beasts even back in the game, and now it has taken a liking to Shin. He makes the foxy his partner. At that time, Shin receives the letter from Tiara that Shin has just returned.
In this 3rd episode, Shin is seen walking with the little fox he saved. He didn't expect to encounter many skull-faced creatures, so he decided to report it to the guild. Before reaching the guild, Shin decided to hide the elemental tail, which took the form of a little fox. He offered the fox the chance to form a contract with him, specifically, a contract between a tamer and his monster. This would make the fox's level and race unknown, allowing them to always be together, no matter where they went. The fox seemed very enthusiastic and agreed to the idea. They then performed the contract ritual, and it was a success. Now Shin had to give the fox a name, and he chose Yuzuha. The elemental tail accepted this name. Shin reached the guild. There, he was greeted by Celica and Silica, who happened to be at the reception desk together. After completing his report, Shin walked by the information board and decided to take on a mission. He noticed a request from an orphanage of the church seeking someone who could inherit a skill. This piqued his curiosity, and he also wanted to meet Millie, who was there. Thus, he decided to accept the mission. Upon arriving at the church, Shin was met by a nun, Thoria. He explained his purpose for coming, to complete the mission and to meet Millie. Initially, Thoria was skeptical of him, but when Millie appeared, she was overjoyed and hugged Shin. Seeing their closeness, Thoria realized that Shin wasn't a bad person and apologized for doubting him. She introduced herself as Thoria, a nun at the church. Shin then inquired about the mission's purpose. Thoria wanted to make sure that Shin had a skill known as purification, a rare ability in this world. Shin admitted that having skills here seemed different from when he was in the game. Thoria explained that they were looking for someone with the purification skill for a nun named Rashia, the granddaughter of a priest. If she inherited the skill, she could continue the church's mission and protect the orphanage. Shin agreed to help. She explained that Millie had a power called Star Composer, which allowed her to see visions. Later, Shin met Rashia, who was nervous and even accidentally bit her tongue while introducing herself. Despite her clumsiness, Thoria vouched for Rashia as a hard-working individual. Shin agreed to guide her to obtain the purification skill, but emphasized that success would depend on her own efforts. Wilhelm soon joined them, and after learning of the plan, he still seemed cautious of Shin. He even warned Shin that if he did anything suspicious, he would deal with him. Rashia showed determination, and Wilhelm agreed to support them. Wilhelm thought Shin was mysterious but trusted him because of Millie's support. Later that night, Wilhelm invited Shin for a private conversation at a bar. He asked Shin if he was one of the chosen ones. Shin was confused, not knowing what that meant. Wilhelm explained that the chosen ones were individuals born with skills, titles, or knowledge that others lacked, like information about rare items or monsters. Shin realized that his skills, titles, and knowledge from the game were different from those around him. He agreed to keep the idea of the chosen ones a secret. Suddenly, Shin received another message from Tiara. She mentioned that she had received a response from someone named Schnee, who said she would return once her task was completed. The next day, Shin, Wilhelm, and Rashia headed to the Ghost Plains. Shin gave Rashia the Holy Prayer Orb, and they moved forward as planned. They were soon confronted by undead creatures, skull-like wolves. Shin and Wilhelm weakened the creatures while Rashia delivered the finishing blows, which led to her level increasing rapidly. Shin predicted that by the time Rashia gained the purification skill, her level might reach 150. Elsewhere, a blonde-haired woman from the kingdom was seen fighting powerful skull-faced monsters with an extraordinary sword. As she effortlessly defeated the creatures, a man beside her expressed concern for the other troops. She confidently said she could handle the situation, and soon after, she saved a troop from a skull-faced monster attack. Her strength amazed those around her. At the beginning of the episode, we witness a massive monster attacking Earth, unleashing destruction with its overwhelming power. The Hero Association is desperately trying to stop the creature. Just as the monster is about to attack a young girl, Saitama suddenly appears and saves her. The monster arrogantly declares, "You think you can challenge me? I'm no ordinary monster, but a great warrior of the galaxy." Despite these boastful words, Saitama kills him with a single punch. Saitama then reflects, thinking, "Another easy victory."